is going to be a grand slam home run.
Swing and drive. Belton right. Welcome to the show.
We're finally back here on the call up. I'm Aram Layton. He's Jack McMullen. And it's been a little bit of a layoff here, Jack. We put out the episode of the awesome interviews that you did with Colt Keith and Justin Henry Malloy in the Tiger System. Definitely go check that out. If you missed kind of the intro to that, I explained a little bit of why we had that bit of a layoff. Of course, my grandfather passing away, tending to all of that, very important and influential man in my life. That episode wouldn't go on YouTube, so just wanted to mention that one more time and apologize for the week plus off of not putting up episodes and what is usually the most fun time of the year to put out the episode. So I promise you we'll make up for lost time, and I'm excited to continue to honor my incredible grandfather who showed me so much in this game and showed me so much in life with just a lot of fun baseball banter and just continuing to, immerse ourselves and myself in this game. But Jack, with this layoff, I was itching. I wasn't itching to do much over the last week other than just be with my family, but I was itching as we got closer and closer to just kind of being able to get back to normal to put these Arizona Fall League rosters into perspective because, man, we talked about it briefly on the Just Baseball show. This is a really fun AFL this year. And we're going to go through each team, each Arizona Fall League team, and then the affiliates that it's comprised of. A lot of players, some are like, third string catcher types. We're not going to spend as much time on them, maybe a bullpen arm that they just wanted to get some more reps for. We won't get as much into that, but there's a lot of notable prospects, a lot of top 100 guys, a lot of, 45, 50 future value type guys. And I think the most important thing is, the pitching is good this year. And the domino of that is, yes, we get to see better arms out there and have more fun. Also, we get to see a little bit more challenge for these hitters because we already know it's a great environment to hit in. So that side of it, I'm very excited for as well.
Do you get more excited for this release or for like Lollapalooza, Coachella lineup releases?
That's the dumbest question you've ever asked.
All right.
It's not even close.
This was a great podcast. I'll talk to
you. It's not even close, dude.
But like if you were going to Coachella, if it was like, oh, wow, like ASAP Rocky's there and Denzel Curry's there, and then you've got Odessa there as well. Like, are you very excited for that? Or is it, oh my gosh, Jackson Jobe is going to the Fall League?
Not even to be like the baseball hardo of like, I just love baseball so much. Honestly, the Fall League, just because you have no baseball season at this point, right? So like, yes, we have the playoffs, but I'm talking about prospects in the minor leagues. If the second the minor league season was over, the second the Norfolk Tides, picked up that last out to win, the AAA title there, it's like, man, I miss being able to just tune into random minor league games, to watch the video back the next day, to be able to keep tabs on prospects and see where they're progressing. That's the most exciting thing. So when I see a bunch of really good players sent out there, like we're going to talk about here, it just fires me up because that's like my bridge that gets me through the off season and also helps me continue to I have this itch to keep doing evaluations, to keep seeing what progress players are making. And, we get to do that with the AFL and that's the most fun part. Usually guys use this opportunity to tinker as much as ever and find some new things too.
I think that's a great point. And I think kind of looking at it in the macro, the reason that I gravitated towards baseball, at least, and I know that a lot of people gravitate towards baseball, is yes, obviously we love the big moment. I'm so excited to watch the postseason because every pitch matters in the postseason. But one of the reasons that I love baseball, and I'm sure so many of you listening do love baseball as well, is because it's constant. Like that's what I love about baseball. Yeah. You can turn it on and it's always there. It's an everyday thing for 6 months out of the year. And as soon as the AAA World Series is done, Norfolk won on Saturday, I want to say. Monday, October 2nd, is AFL opening day. Before the AFL ends, the Dominican Winter League gets going. More on that a little bit later on, I think. But then, here you go to spring training shortly after that. There's really baseball year-round if you want to ingest it. And that's one of my favorite parts of the Arizona Fall League.
And the last thing I'll mention is, if people wonder, who are the candidates to be sent to the Arizona Fall League? Well, another reason why I love it is it has a way of taking care of the guys that you were gypped of seeing this year. If a guy is healthy by the end of the season, but just didn't get enough reps in, a la Chase DeLauder, we feel like, oh man, I would have loved to see more Chase DeLauder, who we'll get to. We get to see more Chase DeLauder now because the Arizona Fall League is where he's going to go get more reps. Same with Colson Montgomery, same with Ricky Tiedemann, and we'll get to all of those guys here. So that's the other side of it I really like, is that, some guys that's their season was painfully short for whatever reason, we get to see a little bit more of them. And then other guys just are able to kind of get more reps and get some more eyeballs on them. So I'm pumped about that. A lot of top 100 guys, a lot of notable prospects, and let's jump into it.
So we're going to go somewhat rapid fire. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you the team in the Arizona Fall League. I'm going to give you the affiliates or the parent clubs that feed into each team. And we're going to work by big league team, by parent club. I'm going to give you a list of names. If I give you 8 names, if you have a thought on 1 or 2 or 4 of those guys, jump in, and we got to go rapid fire because we've got 30 teams to hit. Cool?
Yep. Let's do it.
Okay, let's start with the Glendale Desert Dogs. I love it. They're comprised of the Dodgers and the White Sox, who share Camelback Ranch, the Mets, the Red Sox, and the Twins. The Red Sox are sending a catcher, Nathan Hickey. They're sending Brainer Bonacci, an infielder, Corey Rozier, an outfielder, and then their pitchers, Felix Cepeda, Brian Mata, Wyatt Olds, Zach Penrod, and Christopher Troy. The names that jump out here are Corey Rozier, incredibly fast, used to be a Padres farmhand, and Brainer Bonacci, as well as Brian Mata on the hill, right?
Yeah, so Brian Mata is a guy that I was very interested in seeing more of, and just has not been able to stay healthy. At one point was, right there with Brian Bayo as the most notable prospect in their system. And probably before Brian Bayo really had his ascension, Mata was that guy, but has just continued to battle arm issues. And this is where sometimes it can be tough because guys go out there and they just can't quite re-find it, and regain what they had. But Mata's definitely a notable one. And, still just 24 years old. The command has just been brutal, but it's still mid 90s up to the upper 90s. And there's good stuff there if he can find the zone whatsoever. But a 55% strike rate this year, really hurt him. So I'm sure they'll be tinkering with the mechanics, trying to find something there. Rozier, as you mentioned, like absolute speedster, put up some decent numbers at the AA level, got a taste at AAA. And I think they want to kind of figure out what the deal is with him and where exactly he fits in. Another aspect of this whole league is trying to figure out if a guy is worth it for, adding to your roster for the Rule 5 draft. Of course, Rozier has another year before that. But I think this is more just kind of figuring out exactly what they want to do with him. And I'm eager to see, how he does. He did steal 49 bags this year. And then one other name real quick, Chris Troy. This is a guy that makes a lot of content and is very a very open book. He is going to be kind of live tweeting and offering threads and his thoughts and his perspective of what he's doing out there. Huge strikeout numbers this season between high A and double A. I watched him come out on the Cape, and within his first inning, his arm blew up, and that was really tough to watch. So it's cool to see him, come back and look strong. 50 strikeouts in 31 innings at Double A, 27 walks though. So something to monitor. Stuff is good. It'll be fun to see if he can, continue to build on it and turn himself into a nice reliever.
Yep. All right. White Sox here. They send no catchers. They've got 2 infielders there. Their 2 best prospects, I think, in Colson Montgomery and Brian Ramos. They send Jacob Burke in the outfield, and their pitchers are Addison Coffey, Yasimar Cousin, Jake Eater, who was acquired for Berger straight up, Frazier Ellard, and Jordan Leisure, who came over with Nastrini in that Lance Lynn, Joe Kelly deal. Colson and Ramos are the 2 headliners here.
Yeah, I mean, and Brian Ramos is a guy that going into this year, we were definitely the high guys on, and I talked about how much I love what he is capable of doing offensively, doubles machine with good power and sneaky decent field to hit, and plays a good third base. Injury kind of delayed the start of the season for him, and it just was a longer layoff with a hamstring and a couple other little ailments than we thought. Then really started to have some nice stretches at the AA level. Still very young. I wouldn't say he has much time to make up for because he was already kind of ahead of the 8 ball, but that was a guy that was a top 60 prospect for us. Again, we were the high guys, but top 60 guy going into the year, still a top 100 guy for us. So, very excited to see, what he does out there. He's someone who I think is one of my favorite candidates to potentially elevate their status, in the industry and in the prospect rankings. He checked in at 73 in our midseason update. And then Colson Montgomery, I've told you, is one of my favorite bats in the minor leagues. He's 15th overall prospect in the game for us. And that was with the injuries and the delayed start to the season for him. He's had some ailments that have kind of nagged him as a pro, but this is a dude that's massive and also has such a good feel to hit for how big he is at 6'4", 6'5". I see some shades of like Corey Seager light offensively, and the way he does things from the left side of the batter's box as a 6'4", 6'5" shortstop. He might move to third. Who knows? People said the same thing about Seager. I think he has some ability at short, but I'm really excited to just see that power continue to, shine through, especially in an area where it's going to play up. And I'm excited to see the glove out there too, because that was where I first saw Jackson Merrill's glove. And I said, okay, this guy could really play over there. So I'm excited to get a look at Colson because they do the infield outfields out there a lot. So that's always a good look.
Yeah, throw it back to the grassroots of baseball. Colson, the number 15 prospect in baseball, according to you. According to some, the number 2 prospect in baseball. The Dodgers, they send no catchers, but they do send Yener Fernandez, an infielder, 2 outfielders, Damon Keith and Jake Vogel. And then their pitchers, Ben Kasparius, Ronan Kopp, the Copster going out there, Jake Pilarski, Ryan Sublette, and Kendall Williams. Kopp is the big name here. Are there any other names that jump out to you in this Dodger crop?
Jake Vogel's a guy that's, I didn't love the swing when he was drafted, but he's such a good athlete, high school guy, not even 22 years old yet. It was overslot 2020 guy that, I think was the 100th overall pick. I also want to go back to the White Sox. Excited to see Jake Eder throw a little bit more as well. That's a guy that could be a rotation piece for them this coming year. Struggled after the trade. That happens. So this should be a good opportunity for him to kind of get right and build those innings up. But Vogel flies, I think it was something along the lines of, 28 bags on 30 tries this year. If he got on base more, he'd be better. It was his best offensive season. That's not saying much, but there's something there. He's a really special athlete. He can play center field. So we'll see if he can kind of find something offensively there. A lot of the pitchers are guys that, I think the Dodgers were expecting to do more this year and didn't. So I'm excited to see all of them. And even Williams was at one time a little bit more highly regarded and interesting, a 2019 draftee. But Fernandez is probably one of the more underrated guys in that Dodgers system. And I'm excited to see him get some more reps as well, because I believe he was initially a catching prospect, but they've kind of moved him to the infield, and he's a bat first type guy. Put up really good numbers at the lower levels, put up solid numbers in high A this year. Not much power there, so I'm interested to see if he's able to tap into a bit more, but a really good field to hit, and he just turned 21 years old. So eager to see kind of how that transition to the infield is going and if he could tap into a little bit more juice. But this is a guy I'm definitely watching, and I think could be a great success story with the Dodgers development here.
Got you. 2 more with Glendale. You've got Minnesota and you've got the Mets. Jump into the Twins. They sent a catcher, Andrew Cassetti. They also sent Aaron Sabato, former first-round pick. Was that 21 that Sabato went first round?
Yeah, out of UNC.
I think it was 2021. Yeah, UNC kid. Kalai Rosario is also headed out there. And then their pitching group, Malik Barrington, Jordan Carr, Ben Etheridge, AJ Labas, and Zach Veen with an H. Petition to call him Zach Veen instead of Zach Veen.
Yeah, name's already taken. Sorry.
Taken. If you're not the best Zach Veen in the minor leagues, I'm sorry, man. You got to move.
I don't know. He's catching up. But I will say, I think Andrew Cassetti is arguably the most underrated catching prospect in the game right now. There's just a lot to like there. He's a pretty solid defender. He is a great overall, I would say, feel for the strike zone type guy as a hitter. And you like to see that from catchers, where it translates to the box. 400, well over 400 on base percentage this year, 15 pumps, hits the ball hard. Underlying data looks good. Again, like a 16% walk rate, strikeout rate, right around the 19 to 20% range. Like, he's got great numbers. I'm interested to see him challenge at Double-A, and I think they wanted to get him some more reps for that reason. But 11th rounder in 2022, I think Cassetti's already, starting to kind of carve himself out a little bit of a role here. We'll see how the defense continues to progress. Great arm, throws runners out, but I think, the blocking and stuff could use a little bit of work. So again, those are things that I need to see in person. So very eager to see that. Remember, that's where I fell in love with Jefferson Caro, was the AFL last year. So I'm excited to see a little bit more defense from Cassetti. Who else was there? You mentioned a couple more Twins. I'm trying to pull it up in front of me.
Yeah, Sabato, you've got Kalai Rosario, and then other arms that stand out. Not really many. Ben Etheridge could be a guy to take a gander at, but I mean, Sabato is fascinating because he has that first round pedigree, but unfortunately it's all coming down to the bat, and the bat just hasn't really been there in pro ball.
Yeah, Sabato, man, that was a swing that, when I saw him at UNC, I'm like, okay, that can play. He was an interesting and somewhat polarizing pick because he didn't have a huge track record. It was kind of 1 year of just going off, and then, not much before that. I wouldn't say it's the most baseball body. So I think that was part of it too. It's like, okay, you're really leaning into the bat here. Like you said, it's really got to be the bat. He had an okay season. I thought he bounced back from what was like some rougher years at the lower levels at the AA level, but this guy's got to hit for more power. And I think this is a place where he's going to really try to unlock that. 12 home runs in the Texas League in 77 games when you are literally a big bodied first baseman. Got to find more, but I'm not going to totally give up on a guy like this because there's a lot of juice, in the tank there. And then when it comes to Rosario, this guy was one time a really exciting and highly regarded prospect who I think quickly kind of fell to the wayside after I don't think what was that bad of a year in 2022, where 727 OPS, but that's in the Florida State League. And he was a 5th round pick out of Hawaii in a Hawaii high school. So this was somebody that, very under the radar pop-up type prospect that in a draft where you're not able to get to Hawaii ahead of the draft very much in the COVID world. And this year in high A had a really nice season, man. He strikes out a lot, and that's the thing to monitor. But he's still extremely young. Like I said, just turned 21 years old, hit 21 home runs. If you can find a way to kind of rein in the whiff a little bit, I think this guy could be a really exciting power bat in a corner outfield spot. So we'll see, kind of how he does with the swing and miss. But I think this year was encouraging overall.
Yep. All right, one more affiliate here. It's the Mets. They send Kevin Parada, who I'm sure you are amped to see behind the plate, get some questions answered in regards to Parada. They send 3 infielders, Rowdy Jordan, JT Schwartz, and DeAndre Smith. No outfielders. And the pitching group is Nolan Clenny, Jordan Geber, Brendan Hardy, Trey McLaughlin, and Tyler Thomas. Parada is a wild card here, I think.
Yeah, it's funny. We talked about, I mentioned some of my concerns about Parada and the swing and miss before he was promoted to AA. And then, a 22-year-old, it was right around his 22nd birthday when he got brought up there. He started to swing it a little bit better right out of the gate once he got promoted, but then kind of hit that wall again. I've got some big whiff concerns with him. That's definitely something I'm eager to just kind of see the moving parts to his swing, get another in-person look at him. The EVs are strong. When he hits the ball in the air, it goes, and he hits the ball in the air pretty consistently. But another guy where the bat is a big part of it. I don't know how much they're going to work him in at catcher. I think they're now trying again to really get the defense to progress because they're realizing, hey, the bat may not be as safe as we thought it was. So down the stretch, I mean, he was pretty much catching and not playing much first at all. So I'm very interested to see the glove because if that can get to a passable range, then you add a lot of pressure off of that bat because right now there's a lot of pressure on the bat and there's too much whiff and chase for me to feel good about him as a first base type. So I'm very interested to see the defense.
Yep. All right, let's jump to, I think this is the Mesa Solar Sox. Yeah, Mesa Solar Sox. So they will play at Hohokam. I think they may call Sloan Park their home, which is the Cubs spring training complex now, which is way better than their old one, Hohokam. By the way, Oakland moved into Hohokam when the Cubs left. But it is the Cubs, the Orioles, the Yankees, the A's, and the Houston Astros. Starting with Baltimore, they do send a catcher, Connor Pavolony. Do you know that name at all? Pavolony?
I'll be totally
Connor
honest.
Pavolony.
No.
Yeah, no. They send T.T. Bowens and Billy Cook. They send John Rhodes, an outfielder, and then Carter Baumler, Trey Mago, Zach Peak, Carlos Tavera, and Pete Van Loon. I'm going to be totally honest. I know Mago because he threw in AAA last year, but that's kind of it. This is not a crop from Baltimore.
Yeah, Baumler comes with some pitching intrigue, low 90s guy that has decent breaking ball, but didn't throw much at all, hasn't thrown much at all over the last couple of years, but it's still just 21 years old, pretty athletic pitcher. So I'm a little interested to see what he can do, and showed some nice flashes this year, early and then late. We got to see a couple starts in low A once he came back from injury. So should be interesting to see, how he looks. And it's just any arm I'm kind of interested in this Orioles system. John Rhodes is someone that I think is pretty underrated because he's a good defender. He can motor a little bit. He was a 3rd round pick in 2021 and had a nice year in Double-A, 104 WRC plus, not great, but did hit 17 home runs, did steal a couple bags. Just another solid depth type guy that's 23 years old. And then you look at TT Bowens, another guy that kind of had a sneaky decent year. So I'm interested in just seeing more because I think guys get kind of buried in this Orioles system. Bowens had an all right year, kind of around league average offensively, walks it a little bit, struck out a little bit too much. So just another guy to watch. But I think for the Orioles, like they've got so many top prospects that I think they're just kind of trying to filter out, who the guys are in tier 3 of that system that can kind of, make a little bit more of a statement here. And it's going to be interesting to see who can do that. I thought they'd send maybe, another arm or two instead. But then I'd probably say of all of those names, dude, Billy Cook might be the most interesting. There's like that. I compare a lot. It's way too many like infield / outfield guys with speed to Whit Merrifield in terms of just like the profile. But this guy was a 10th round pick in 2021. Hit 24 home runs this year and stole 30 bags. So, I mean, it's something to monitor. He's aggressive, struck out 25%, walked 8%, but 30 for 33 on bags and 24 pumps. Like you've got my attention as a guy that can play multiple positions and play all over. So I'd probably say Billy Cook is my most intriguing guy of this whole list when it comes to the offensive guys. And then, some of the other arms, I can't pretend that I know a ton. We'll have to talk to our guys at, Orioles on the Verge to get a better idea of that.
For sure. Jumping to the Cubs here. They do have some big league pedigree somehow. James Triantos, they are sending an infielder, outfielders, Kevin Alcantara and Alexander Canario, who sat on the bench for a while. But Canario worked his way back from that. I think it was with separated shoulder and ankle fracture on the same play in the Dominican Winter League. And then pitching wise, they send Nick Hull, Chris Kakmar, Adam Lasky, Jose Romero, and Tyler Santana. Canario, I'm fascinated by from, I don't know, like, let's see how much he dominates because there's a chance he puts up a 1,200 OPS in this league. But Kevin Alcantara, man, I need some questions answered. I think we're getting to that point now where I'm like, okay, I really need to see this guy put up some crazy production over a course just to know what I can dream on, as opposed to just being that 6'6" outfielder they got from the Yankees for Rizzo.
Yeah, and what's great is he's riding a lot of momentum into that and into this fall league too. Kevin Alcantara is, it was a little bit of a slow start and then went nuts over the last 60 games and handled a promotion to Double-A pretty well even over the last handful of games. So I'm really excited to see what he does out there. The power is crazy, 107 mile per hour, 90th percentile exit velocity. He's flashed 112s, 113. So if there's a place that can get you incentivized to elevate, it's Arizona. And I think this is a place where he can really work on, creating that leverage and elevating. It's hard when you have such long levers, to consistently, stay kind of direct to the ball and also generate lift, because guys that are so long, they want to stay direct to the ball and they end up kind of having a flat swing, and that results in, more ground balls. So I am very eager to see how Kevin Alcantara works in batting practice and, in games to try to lift more consistently. But this guy hit the crap out of the ball. He struck out less than I thought he would. He walked a decent amount, as the rest of the season continued to progress. And I thought he really elevated his status this year and could continue to do so. Triantos is a guy that I think Cubs fans have always been a little bit too high on, but this is an atmosphere where, bat to ball over power. He's definitely going to swing it pretty well out there, but I'm interested to see, how much more he can tap into and see the glove in the infield. Canario is probably the odds on favorite if there was odds to win the MVP, as you said. And then I will say I'm biased because I know him, personally, but Adam Lasky's been a pretty nice left-handed reliever for the Cubs in that system, and has some sneaky good stuff. Was looking like a potential top 3-round pick before he dealt with some arm issues. After, was awesome on the Cape. Was part of a couple arms on that Duke team that were tracking like first-round guys, and then dealt with arm issues, and that's a kind of weird thing that happened out there. But he's definitely someone that I'm intrigued to watch. I know the Cubs are still excited about. And then Tyler Santana was a South Florida kid who just kind of gets outs. And, I'm excited to see him and kind of play the name game of mutual friends. But I don't have much on that other than he fills up the strike zone and gets out. So nice crop that the Cubs are sending, though.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see the bats that the Cubs are sending. And if they are at Sloan Park, I highly recommend you go, because that place is one of my favorite baseball places on earth that I've been to. I mean, it's really just kind of limited to the States and Toronto, but Sloan Park is pretty sweet. Tokyo Dome, number 1 on my bucket list, by the way. I don't know where you're at.
Oh, it's up there, man. It's up there, especially now that I'm reading the Sadaharu O book. I want to get out there and just watch some baseball.
Aram's book queue is kind of stacking up a little bit, because I'm going to force him to read The Arm by Jeff Passan after he's done with his Sadaharu O book, because he's kind of focused on hitting right now, and I need him to scratch the pitching itch just a little bit.
My problem is this: every time I want to go read, I say, "Oh, well, I could write right now," and then I start writing something up, and then I don't read. So it takes me about a couple months to read a book. But we'll get there. Off season will be good. Off season will be good.
I had a friend say I needed to watch South Park, so I gotta watch South Park.
Oh, you gotta watch South Park. You would love it. You would love it.
I feel like I would love it. So that's my off-season thing when they stop playing baseball. Although we'll have the Dominican Winter League that we can watch.
NFL.
All right. Yes. Houston, they send a catcher, Miguel Palma. They send Zach DeCenzo, an infielder, Kennedy Corona, an outfielder, and their pitching group is AJ Blubaugh, Ray Gaither, I think Ray Gaither, Tyler Guilfoyle, Jaime Melendez, and Miguel Oyola. I've heard Guilfoyle. I know that DeCenzo can really swing it in the infield.
Yeah. I'm pumped to see DeCenzo, because he's really had kind of a breakout type year. I was interested to see if they were going to send Loperfido out there, and I think honestly, I think Loperfido may have shown enough that they don't even need to see him out there. And he was playing all over. And, I think he played a lot of games this year between, when you get that bump up from double to trips, it just elongates the season. DeCenzo didn't get that bump up to trips. So, and also I think played only about 94 games this year. So he makes more sense to get more reps in. And, but DeCenzo had a really nice year, man. And 23 years old, a steal in the 2022 draft. And the Astros always do that. I mean, Loperfido was a steal, and now you got DeCenzo in the 12th round. It's an absolute steal. Great power, sneaky speed. He was 16 for 16 on bags, 14 home runs, at the AA level. And he was 6 for 8 in high A with 4 more home runs there. Raked through high A. That was a joke. And then, met his match a little bit more in double, but held his own. I did a dive on him recently. High fastballs were kind of chewing him up a little bit. So I'm excited to kind of see how he responds to that, see how he can kind of hedge some of that whiff and lean into that power. So the hit tool is going to be something I'm going to monitor there, but I'm just looking forward to seeing more of him. Kennedy Corona is probably one of the more underrated guys in this system as well. Corona, I did a dive into him because I was doing my Bowman checklist, a breakdown that I always do. And he's in the latest product of Bowman Chrome. But Corona's a good athlete, and he's, I think, one of the more underrated combinations of power and speed. Remember we used to talk about Grant McCray with the Giants and like, oh, he's got that stolen base and power ability. I think Corona's an even better blend of that. You look at just the AA numbers in 111 games, 20 homers, 31 bags, a little too aggressive, which has kind of stifled the walk rates a little bit. And led to only a 101 WRC plus, but the counting stats are there. The swing is pretty good. The ability to play all 3 outfield spots is there. I'm interested to see more Corona, because he's just a guy that you kind of don't focus on during the season, but you get out to the AFL and you're just kind of watching everybody and you're like, wait, that guy can play more than he gets credit for. So that's another dude that I'm looking forward to. And then is it Miguel Ulala?
It's tough. There's a lot of L's. Ullola. I'm not sure. I would assume the two L's make the Y sound. Oyola.
Uyola. Yeah,
Does
Uyola.
Uyola make sense?
Uyola. Yeah, Uyola.
Uyola.
Yeah. Throws fuzz. I'm
does.
excited. This is an arm. This is another one of those arms that like you don't really pay attention to, and then you see 96, 97 on the gun, and you're like, wow. Good carry, that classic like Astros good shape fastball, big whiff. Secondary command is not great, as is the case for so many AFL pitchers. So 21-year-old with big stuff and you know, trying to find the command. I'm in on watching that. That's always fun.
Sweet. All right, the Yankees, they send no catchers, 2 infielders. They send Ben Cowles and Caleb Durbin. They send 1 outfielder in Nelson Medina. And then their pitching group is 4. Norberto Enriquez, Kevin Stevens, Baron Stewart, and Tristan Veerling. Who jumps out there?
No, not much.
Not much at all.
Not much.
I don't know. Like their big prospect thing was obviously the late infusion of Pereira and Dominguez and Wells.
I'd say Tristan Veerling. He was a 3rd rounder and dealt with elbow issues, so he didn't pitch at all. This season, 2022 3rd rounder, and has a pair of pretty nasty breaking balls. So I just out of curiosity, just kind of want to see, you know, what this guy looks like off of elbow issues. And, you know, of course the Yankees have done well in those 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th round college arm types. So I want to see if they did well again here with Veerling. But that's really about it for me.
Got you. Let's wrap with Oakland here on the Mesa Solar Sox. No catchers. They sent 2 infielders, both with intrigue, Brett Harris and Max Muncy. We highlighted Muncy, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago as a guy that has really turned it on through the second half of this year. But Muncy had a great finish to the year. They don't send any outfielders. Oakland does send 5 pitchers in Stevie Emanuels, who I saw throw in high A, and I was impressed by. Jack Perkins, Royber Salinas is a name that I know you're following closely, Junior Tur, and Jack Weisenberger. So the 2 names that kind of jump out to me are Muncy and Salinas.
You got it. Muncy's a guy that I think is going to enjoy as much prospect helium from his Arizona Fall League performance as anybody. I'm calling my shot on that one. I'm interested in doing that video dive, trying to figure out exactly what he found. But, you know, a guy that was whiffing a ton and just not producing that much, is a former 1st rounder, really found it. And he's just turned 21 this year, so he's young. Like it wasn't one of those things where like, oh, he's cooked. But I think, you know, people move off quickly and start watching other guys, especially when you're in the A system. But Muncy closed the season out unbelievably well. And we talked about it a couple episodes ago. What was most notable about it is he kind of had things click when he went to AA. And sure, the Texas League, the ball flies. That's part of it. But the whiff numbers went way down. The strikeout numbers went way down. And he just started to consistently lift the ball more. So I think something happened in AA, getting with the right people, finding something. And over his last 40 games, /325, 416, 500. So I'm very, very excited to see him and see the glove at shortstop as well. And then Royber Salinas, of course, part of that, I always mix up which deal it would have been, but that would have been the deal with Murphy, not Olsen.
It was the Murphy deal. It was the Murphy deal. So like the one that sent William Contreras from Atlanta to Milwaukee. Salinas went from Milwaukee to Oakland.
Salinas was a Brave.
He was a Brave. He went from Atlanta.
That
to
trade
Oakland.
always breaks my brain though, dude. It was just, I don't know what it is, because you have the 2 Braves Oakland trades, and then one of them's a 3-team trade. It's just of a guy that was also traded in a story like multiple times. Like it's a crazy trade web. But Salinas is a disgusting cutter. His fastball shape is pretty intriguing, and he throws it hard. And a couple other secondaries that are good if he can command it. His command has been frustrating at times, but he finished the year in a nice stretch where he struck out 30% of batters, walked just 8% of batters. And I mean, again, when this guy's around the zone, it's nasty, and he's going to get a lot of swings and misses in the zone. Missed some time with an injury I think it was late May, and then he didn't really pitch in AA until early August, I want to say. So he has kind of just some momentum building back. His velo really kind of came back over the last few starts. So I'm pumped to see him. What's interesting is he was averaging around 97 miles an hour before the injury, slowly built back up to like 95 and a half. And I want to see if he can get back up to 96, 97, with just the ability to kind of get more innings and more time, off of that injury. Brett Harris, have you seen much of him? Like, it's a name that's just always been around, but for me, like, I just haven't done a ton of diving into. 7th rounder in 2021, like, put up solid numbers this year in AA and in AAA, but it's just one of those guys where like the data doesn't jump off the page. It's solid and it's two pretty hitter friendly environments.
Yeah, no, I mean, Brett Harris is not really a guy that's kind of like jumped off to me. But that's kind of the nice thing about the Arizona Fall League is, you can tune in to this single cam high home stream and you can see somebody go yard. You're going to be there and I'm going to get a text and then I'll dive in and I'll be like, okay, cool. So Harris could be one of those guys.
Real quick, you said you saw Stevie Emanuel's a little bit too?
I saw Stevie Emanuel's and I liked Stevie Emanuel's. He wasn't light up the radar gun when I saw him in 21. But Emanuel's, I just remember funk was his thing.
Yeah.
Like he was a funky guy.
It's interesting. So in 2021 sat 91, 92. This past year sat 95.
Really?
Yeah. Opponents hit a $193, 6'6" guy that I think is finding some velocity here. Slider is disgusting. Opponents hit sub 200 against it.
I think it comes from a really weird slot. That's what I remember from 2021. It comes from a bizarre arm slot.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's an interesting guy. Yeah. It's 6'6", kind of weird 3/4-ish release point, gets some pretty low effort extension. I'm interested to see. That's an outlier type guy. I'm in 6'6", 235. Like, let's watch this guy throw. And again, these are the kind of arms that would have been some of the better arms last year. And he's not even the best arm that the A's are sending. So interested to see him. And then also Lazaro Armenteros. Did you mention him?
Was he a late ad?
I think
he wasn't on the initial roster release, but I guess Lazaro Armenteros was going. So here's the thing. And like Zach Veen, I was going to bring this up with Zach Veen with the Twins, but when I go on Baseball Reference and I type in Zach Veen, it doesn't take me right to his page because did you mean Zach Veen or Zach Veen? And I'm like, okay. If I type in Lazaro, it doesn't take me right to Montes because it takes me to Armenteros. Armenteros, he was a $6 million IFA guy. He was huge money.
It was a number. It was a number.
It was a number that was large.
Yeah. He's striking out a shit ton, but he put up a 124 WRC plus in the Texas League, hit 14 home runs in 96 games, hit 6 home runs in 14 high A games, but this was like his 5th year in high A. So, I mean, you got to take that with a grain of salt, but I mean, it was the lowest strikeout rate of his professional career at AA. That has to matter for something. The highest walk rate of his professional career. Like, it's never too late for a guy with that kind of bat speed to find something. I'm not saying he's going to be, really good 6 million, like the guy he was supposed to be, but he's running into baseballs. He's hitting them hard and he's walking more. He's striking out a little bit less. Like maybe he could just be a volatile power bat, which at this point, a guy that's out of their top 30, I think the A's would be thrilled with. So I think they're trying to figure out kind of what they got here.
For sure. You ready for me to pull this card? I think we can separate this into 2 episodes.
Yes. I was surprised we didn't do it before. I was going to say we probably should. Our listeners are so used to this by now. It's just like part of the course.
I'm really sorry. So we're going to finish with the Peoria Javelinas, who is the best roster that we've looked at of this bunch. And then second episode will be really solid, including the Salt River Rafters, which are loaded.
Well, I would say we haven't even I guess the pitching heavy episode is going to be the next one because there's some really good arms we're going to talk about in the next one.
And you got some marquee hitters too, and you got a certain catcher that I'm fascinated by. But let's finish this episode with the Peoria Javelinas. And Peoria is comprised of San Diego, Tampa, Seattle, Miami, and Cleveland. Let's start with Cleveland here because they send Christian Cairo and Kyle Manzardo. In the outfield, they send Chase DeLauder. There we go. It's already the best roster that we've talked about. And their pitching group is Ross Carver, Brad Hanner, Jake Miller, Eric Sabrowski, who I find interesting, and Ryan Webb as well. But obviously, we got to start with Manzardo and DeLauder. These are guys that had injury-hampered seasons. DeLauder, it was not hampered. It was just a late start, and
Yeah.
it's a chance for him to kind of continue his ascension, maybe firmly solidify himself as a top 100 prospect. For Manzardo, it might be a chance to get Guardians fans excited about this, because I remember they were kind of pissed and they looked at his 2023 numbers and it's like, we traded Savali for that. Manzardo's good. You got to trust us. And now
Yeah.
this is an opportunity for them to see that in the fall league.
Finished the year like a maniac too.
Yeah.
I mean, 6 home runs in his last 12 games of the season, with 6 walks and 6 Ks. So there was just a lot to like there down the stretch. And he was a little banged up. He also, we talked about it, like he was trying to tap into more power. The EVs jumped, but he just was not quite lifting, or excuse me, sorry, he was lifting way too much. And I think that was kind of creating like, hey, what about those line drives that you have always been able to spray? Like that's a big part of who you are. Doubles count too. And, he kind of lost that. He lost a little bit of the like spraying the ball, finding the gaps, and then running into the homers when you run into it. Instead, it was like sell out for the lift, pull side, try to hit home runs. And he lost a lot of the filler stats where you don't have as many singles, you don't have as many doubles. It really impacts your overall slash line. So I think he started to find that again. Yes, he did hit 6 home runs over the last 12 games, but I do think that there was a level of kind of finding that feel to hit again and getting things rolling. And I think that this is an opportunity for him to kind of endear himself to the Guardians as, a guy that could potentially break camp with the way that he finished in AAA and with the years that he's had in the past and what he can do out there. So that's a big part of it. Chase DeLauder for me is, you mentioned like, could kind of solidify himself as a consensus top 100 guy. I saw enough in his limited action this past year to say this is a top 100 guy. Speed, power, feel to hit that is really impressive. I mean, this guy was running an 89% zone contact rate in his 57 games this year after that big layoff. Hasn't even turned 22 yet. This is top of the list of guys I'm pumped to see. I think he's going to be another one of those guys that in that environment where the power is really going to play, because he flashed some really exciting power this year, could see himself rise quickly up a lot of different top prospect ranks and could show well enough to, I think really earn a quick promotion through AA. He finished the year in AA, swung it really well there. He could start the year in AA and they could say, hey, after the fall league and what you did at the end of last year, quick bump to AAA, and who knows, they could probably use him at the big leagues at some point next year. So this is a great opportunity to make up for lost time for DeLauder, who I think is looking like a really good outfield prospect.
For sure. Only pitcher that I want to shout with Cleveland is Eric Sabrowski. Sabrowski, left-hander, who is with the Padres, had Tommy John after a really strong start to his 2021. He's back. He's healthy. Sabrowski was a really well-built kid from Canada. When I saw him in 2021, I assumed the velocity either maintained or slightly jumped, and it was already mid-90s. And Sabrowski was an exciting bullpen piece, it seemed, as he would kind of rise through the ranks with San Diego. I'm not sure what his season looked like with Cleveland, but I do know that guy had some shit to him.
Yeah, and that's probably why he's sent there. So it's one of those things where in this system, I'm going to watch almost any arm that they have. He's kind of transitioned to that bullpen role, and the velocity kind of ticked up as the year went on, and finished out the year with a striking out the side inning where he sat 94. So I'm interested to see, because they seem to find these funky left-handed, tall, long relievers who get some jump, but good year overall in terms of opponent batting average, $176, but struggle to fill up the zone. So just another classic guy. Stuff's good. Can you find a way to throw strikes? Perfect candidate to go out here.
And I like those guys in the Guardian system. I do, because they're kind of the outliers. Mm-hmm. Miami, they send PMAC, Paul McIntosh. They also send Jacob Berry and Nasim Nunez. And then pitchers, they send Gabe Byerman, Ike Buxton, Brady Encarnacion, Zach McCambly, and Dale Stanovich. McCambly, PMAC, and Nasim Nunez are very close to your heart, I know. Yeah. It is a good chance to see another month of Jacob Berry.
Yeah. I mean, I'm interested to see if they play him at third at all. I think they shouldn't. They should play him at first. He was swinging it okay before he went down. He messed his foot up at the end of the year. So, I mean, he's a guy that needs more reps, and I want to see if he could generate some more power. He's a very like 2-footed swinger, meaning that the forward move is a little bit too early. And I think that impacts the power. field of hits there. So I want to see more Jacob Berry. And, I don't think was the first round talent that the Marlins thought he was, but it doesn't mean he's a non-prospect. So eager to see more from him. He showed some signs of life. Kind of a lost year for PMAC, who just had an unbelievable season last year, banged up this year, and just couldn't quite find his footing. Still had an okay season, 765 OPS, but I'm also interested to see where the Marlins play him. Do they start to get him some outfield reps? Does he start to play a little bit more first? Do they try to continue to develop him as a catcher? Because I can tell you, this guy hits the crap out of the ball. 108 mile per hour, 90th percentile. Like, he's got juice and he's a good athlete. So interested to see what the Marlins do there. I think he's one of the better hitters they have in their system. Not saying much. McCambly made the move to the bullpen after some elbow issues last year and was lights out. It's a borderline, I think it's a 70 to 75 grade slider that is just disgusting. I think he's going to be the Evan Reifert of the AFL this year, and could kind of prove himself to be a potential bullpen piece for the Marlins. So I'm excited for him. And then Buxton was interesting. Ike Buxton had a really nice stretch to close out the year. And I think this is a guy that could be an emergent pitching prospect in this Marlins system. Made his final start of the year in Double-A. Mid-90s fastball, solid stuff across the board, 6'3" guy with good shape on the heater. That's another dude that I think the Marlins are just kind of trying to see who they can develop next here. And Brady Encarnacion's another one, 6'3" righty, kind of fills up the strike zone, except the low 90s. We'll see what they do, and how he does out there too. But some fun players for the Marlins to send out there. And then, of course, Nassim Nunez, friend of the show, unbelievable defender. I think if he can just show that he's capable of anything close to league average offense, he's a guy worth putting on the 40 man. But the problem is he's just not hitting enough. One of the best base stealers, one of the best defenders. They got to just try to find a way to get him to hit enough.
In the Futures Game MVP, never forget it. The 2023 Futures Game MVP. Jumping to Seattle, the real Prince Harry, Great Britain's Harry Ford, is a catcher with the Mariners. Ryan Bliss, who was acquired at the deadline, along with Ken Zone in that Seawald deal, and Tyler Locklear are the infielders. And then the pitching group that they send is Peyton Alford, Jimmy Joyce, and Troy Taylor. Jimmy Joyce, I'm not sure if he's related to Jim Joyce.
Yes.
Speaking of Miguel Cabrera's retirement, one of the lasting images in baseball history is him just smiling at Jim Joyce, and then the quick cut to Galarraga just smiling at Jim Joyce. But I'm really excited for Ryan Bliss and Locklear. Obviously, Harry Ford, we spend a lot of time on Harry Ford already. Bliss was a guy that I think we shined some light on going into the Futures Game and at the deadline. This guy was guns blazing in Double-A to start this year, and then it was a terrible stretch in Triple-A after the trade. But then after that, man, like, he really settled in, and I'm hoping that he puts together a great month. And I know Locklear swings a bat that you're kind of infatuated with.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I'll start with Bliss. You mentioned it, like, gets up to AAA after the trade and, all those moving parts, and struggled, then finished the year on a great stretch, 900 OPS, 8 homers, mixing in the bags, playing good defense, walking a ton. Bliss is looking like a guy that could be a second baseman for them next year.
Big leaguer. I do believe that Bliss is a big leaguer. He's
just fun, and he's got tools, and he just seems to outperform the underlying metrics, and he doesn't chase. And that was the big thing. He just continuously cut the chase down as the season went on. And when he got to AAA, he really leveraged that ABS in that smaller zone and took his free passes and then ran into balls when he needed to. The EVs may not jump off the page, but he gets some carry, and I just think he's going to be a guy that overperforms what people expect from him. So I'm excited to see Bliss in person, and I want to see, how he plays at shortstop, because of course, that kind of impacts the overall profile. But I still think he's a guy that can play all over the infield a little bit. Don't need to talk much about Harry Ford. I'm excited to just see the catching defense there and get more looks at him. Locklear is a guy that took a pitch off the hand, broke it, and that cost him some time this year. Big power. The swing is puzzling to me that he's able to hit as much as he does, because there's a lot of moving parts and things that, I think could impact his consistency, but there's guys that could always get away with that. So I'm excited to just kind of see him in person up close and see how he, gets those moves down and how he's able to consistently hit, because you can't deny the production so far. So I'm eager to see more than, what the video provides. And then Jimmy Joyce is probably the most notable arm there. Put up some good numbers, had a couple 10 strikeout games in high A, and then had a couple really solid starts in Double-A. And I think to manage his innings a little bit, knowing that they were going to send him to the fall league, they had him go shorter spurts over the last few starts. He closed out the season on a really nice stretch of, I think it was 8 scoreless innings. Across that stretch, no walks and 9 Ks. So I'm interested to see Jimmy Joyce again, just another arm that this is somebody that people aren't going there to see, but a nasty changeup and probably would have been one of the better arms last year. So a good fastball changeup combination could be a nice little piece here.
I love it. All right, jumping to San Diego here. We got San Diego and Tampa to wrap up part 1 of our fall league rosters. But San Diego, they send Nathan Martorella and Graham Pauley, 2 guys that kind of displayed some pop in the infield. The outfield is Jacob Marcy, and this guy like somehow is flying under the radar still. He had a great statistical season. And then you've also got Jagger Haynes going on the hill, Braden Nett, Cole Paplam, Francis Pena, and Emmanuel Pinales. Marcy, Martorella, and Pauley, I think, are the big 3 for me from San Diego.
And 3 just like, Preller masterclass, especially Martorella and Pauley, just great draft picks here. Martorella has become a very popular name, just the way he was able to swing it over the course of the year and put up some solid numbers. I'm personally most excited to see Graham Pauley, because Pauley was like a 12th round pick, something like that, but got over slot money, and if I'm not mistaken, and kind of emerged out of nowhere to a degree, and just turned into a different level of hitter. Put up ridiculous numbers across the board. It was a 13th round pick, and actually they gave him right around the slot value. So I was wrong on that, but just really good bat to ball skills, really good tools across the board, and somebody that just put on a ton of strength over his final little stretch at Duke. And I think that, again, this is what the Padres do. They find guys that are just on the cusp of breaking out in their amateur level, and then pick them up right at that point and help them put it all together, and break out right as they become pros. Merrill was kind of a similar situation where it was like field to hit was always there, power wasn't quite there, added strength, and then they picked up right at the right time. Pauley, great contact rates, above average EVs, low chase, had a 937 OPS this year. He hit 312, 396, 540. Definitely a guy I'm going to try to get on the show. Played third, played second, played left. I think this is one of the more exciting prospects in the game that not a lot of people are talking about. Pauley, I'm pumped to see.
I love it. And then Marcy, I want to shed some light on Jacob Marcy, because I do think that this guy really went underappreciated. It was 16 pumps and an 840, 850 OPS between high A and double A. He stole 41 bags and 50 attempts to go along with 16 pumps in a graveyard that we've talked about in Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
Marcy can get it.
6th round pick, man. 6th round pick, another guy. Contact rates right around zone contact 88%. EVs aren't great, but as you mentioned, like, can just sneak it out to the pull side. And if you can do that in a graveyard, then I'm intrigued. And I think he's just a guy that can create some carry. 16% chase rate, Jack, as well. So like, this is a guy that does not chase. He's going to walk a ton, not going to strike out much at all, has the speed, and can sneak in some pull side bombs. I'm looking forward to seeing Marcy, and I think he's a guy that can play a really good center field as well, and just a multi-hit game machine this year. So I think you're spot on there.
Yep. And then we wrap with Tampa with Peoria. Dominic Keegan, the hashtag Vandy boy, is the catcher going on behalf of the Rays. Also have Carson Williams, who's one of their top prospects. Shane Sasaki, who has put up big numbers statistically. I'm not sure about the prospect intrigue there. And then the pitchers that they send are Hayden Irby, Drew Sommers, Austin Verdon, Patrick Wicklander, and Logan Workman. Carson Williams is the star of the show. This infield is ridiculous, with Manzardo, Jacob Berry for the intrigue alone, Nassim Nunez, Ryan Bliss, Tyler Locklear, Nathan Martorella, Graham Pauley, and Carson Williams. Dude. And then you've got DeLauder and Marcy in the outfield, and Shane Sasaki, if you're interested. Wow, man. Wow.
That team flies.
Yeah.
Keegan fell because wasn't viewed as much of a catcher, but again, there's another guy I'm really interested to see the defense. But good contact rates, big power numbers. Keegan's a prospect, man. He's a bat. He is a guy. And the Rays do this, right? The power that some teams don't like because where am I going to put him? Is he going to whiff too much? Blah, blah, blah. Rays don't care. They help figure it out. And I think Keegan's a guy that even if he's a below average catcher, that bat is going to be fun to watch. So eager to see him and see that power on display. Carson Williams is one of the best shortstop prospects in the game. And for him, it's a little bit, there's a little bit of struggles with the secondary stuff. And I think this is a good opportunity for him to get a mixed bag, some mediocre secondary stuff, and then he's gonna get some good secondary stuff. And I want to see how he hits the breaking ball because he crushes heaters. He's got monster power. He's a great defender. He's a special talent. And I haven't gotten to see too many good, in-person looks. I went out to Charleston. He sat that day. So I'm eager to see him in that glove in action too, because he's a great defender out there as well. As you mentioned, this team is just absolutely loaded. But Shane Sasaki, I didn't take him too seriously as a prospect. I thought he was kind of that guy that just picks up a ton of stolen base numbers and you don't really see much else. But Sasaki had a quietly pretty solid overall season. And yes, he's a little bit older for the level. He's 23 last year, but can play all three outfield spots, absolutely motors, and put up an 841 OPS. So I'm interested to see if he's, a legitimate prospect and a guy worth following a little bit more closely. And then Patrick Wicklander, funky lefty that gets a lot of uncomfortable swings. So, just another Rays guy that I think they're going to kind of audition and see if he's bullpen worthy.
Yeah, I love it. All right. Quick quiz before we end this one. We have 3 teams left to go over. I'm going to give you the location. You have to give me the team name. So we did the Glendale
Desert Dogs.
We also did the Mesa
Solar Sox.
And the Peoria
Javelinas.
We do Salt River.
Rafters.
Scottsdale.
Oh, crap. Scottsdale. Come back to Scottsdale.
Surprise.
Shoot. Those are the teams that people only call it by the city.
Yep. There's alliteration here. The Scottsdale Scorpions.
Yeah, you would have got me on that one.
And the G is silent. The Surprise Saguaros. Saguaros, the Cactus.
I think I would have failed a multiple choice on that. People just say, "Oh, you're going to Surprise." I'm like, "Yeah, let's go watch Surprise." Like,
you have to assume alliteration. The Peoria Javelinas, sure, but like Solar Sox after Mesa, that. The Salt River Rafters. There's always alliteration in this, but
that's good.
Yeah, the Surprise Saguaros. Those are my favorite. If you find any Saguaros merch, I would love some.
I'll look. There's merch out there, and for those that are going out, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm going to be out there on a couple different occasions, so happy to go take in some ball and meet up with people. Also, if you are in the area, it's worth going. It's a blast, and you're going to see a lot of good talent as we just kind of laid out. The next few rosters, I think, might even be better. So I'm looking forward to the next episode where we can really highlight a lot more exciting arms, including 2 of the top pitching prospects in baseball. So that should be pretty fun for us. Some other scheduling notes before we wrap up. We're going to do some minor league recap. I think our first team, some of the best performers of the year, minor league player of the year, hitter wise and pitcher wise. We talked about that on the Just Baseball show, but wanted to kind of do an episode around that. So we'll do an episode finishing up this Arizona Fall League. We'll do, our kind of first team, all-star team, whatever you want to call it, of the minor league season. And then we will talk about the pitcher and hitter of the year. And then we'll be talking about the Arizona Fall League and keeping you brief there, doing a lot of fun player interviews, getting a lot of info there, updating our end of season top 100 list, which should be, done in the next couple weeks and continuing to go from there. I'm excited to cook in this offseason, Jack. We got a lot of fun prospect stuff to discuss. And thank you for walking us through all of these lineups and rosters, and excited to do it with you again this week.
Yeah, same thing this week. And then I'm excited, man. I'm going to send you a rough draft of I want to do first, second, and third team all MILB. Do you want to do first, second, and third, or first and second? What do you think?
Let's do first, second, and third, King.
Let's do it. Okay. I'm going to send you a rough draft of that, and we're going to go over that. I think we maybe work like backwards or something. Yeah. We'll get creative with it.
Yeah. Look out for that. A lot of articles at justbaseball.com. So stay tuned with that. And of course, playoff postseason coverage on the Just Baseball show and at justbaseball.com. Keep up with all of that over there. As always, thank you for listening. Look forward to talking prospects with you tomorrow.